Well, thank you, Sarah. It is great to be back with you and back with Courtney as we discuss what is a very important issue and I know is critical for the journalism community. You know, I have had the opportunity over the course of my career, really as chair of the AMA's opioid task force, to meet with journalists to talk about how you all cover that issue. And it was a great learning opportunity for me and a great opportunity to share information. But tonight, it's more of an individual and journalist check-in. But I do want to say, I just want to thank you because, you know, as a physician, I know, and we have been focused on this during the course of this pandemic, uh, the need to focus on science and evidence and the data. But listen, I am aware, well aware, that it's the narratives that really get to the heart of the story. And so I thank you all for your work in the narrative piece, helping us bring the science and the evidence and the data to life, because really it's the stories and the narratives that move people to action. As Sarah mentioned, I had the opportunity to participate on another one of these. So this is my second. And after the first call, I was just thinking, or it actually struck me on the call, how much in common physicians have with journalists, particularly during this time, but really all of the time, because here we are in the midst of our work, right, which is emotional, hard, sometimes gut wrenching, and we have to some degree, take ourselves out of the story, right? We have to be objective. And so I know that we share that in common because that is not always easy to do. And especially when, as Black journalists and Black physicians, we have a unique lens to tell that story. And if we don't tell that story through that lens, no one else will. And so I want to say, first of all, that there is no roadmap for this, particularly around this time with what I call the triple threat of the COVID-19 pandemic, racism, which is both acute and chronic, and of course, the recent episodes of police brutality. And of course, that is on a foundation of these things happening and being in existence for a long time. And so there is no roadmap for us, and it's important that we get together. I know we do as physicians, and you are having this call tonight to be supportive of one another. So I just want to talk a little bit about how we, as Sarah said, can first of all, give grace and space to ourselves. Each one of us is unique and different, and we are experiencing this moment. We experience all moments in our unique way. We bring our own past, our own unique lens and vision, experience, expertise, actually to every situation, but particularly this situation. But we have to make sure that we give ourselves the grace and space to feel whatever we are feeling. How I am managing through this will be different than Courtney, will be different from Sarah. And it's so important that we allow ourselves to feel the feel and not compare. Oh my goodness, should I be feeling this way? I'm not feeling this way. And my peer is feeling this way. I think the key thing is to be individual and give yourself that grace and that space to feel however you are feeling. And second, we need to name and identify those feelings, which is for some hard. And I know Courtney will help us and do some exercises on that a little bit later, but we should name how we're feeling. And sometimes that may require getting someone else to help us name those feelings and identify those feelings or our challenges or what we are angry about, right? So this is not just our feelings, but what are we angry about at this moment? And again, it's important to name it. And that I think helps drive the next step, which is action as well. Clearly, and tonight is one example, it's important to develop your own squad. It cannot, none of us can get through this crisis or actually any crisis alone. And it's very important to develop your own squad, to check in on a regular basis. And I always say to routinize that, because I think we get into a habit of thinking that we only need to check in or seek help or go to the doctor when there is an acute problem. But I think we should get into a habit of routinizing, checking in, routinizing, looking at our mental health. Of course, I hope everyone on this call goes in for your regular medical checkups. I mean, the idea is to be proactive. And so if we make it routine, hopefully it won't seem out of the ordinary, and it won't seem like there's necessarily a problem, or it is a problem, or a moral failing, or a weakness to check on our mental health, and certainly to ask for professional help. Please find a squad. Each one of us has our own squad. Find a squad to help you with that. The next point I'd like to make is, and I received this question on the last call, how do you know when to ask for help? So I'll answer that in two ways. First of all, it is absolutely okay, as I said, to be proactive and not be in the habit of only asking for help when something is, and I'll do the air quotes, wrong. But certainly we are all busy, and we may not, for many reasons, be able to routinize that, or at least have a routine that we would like. But absolutely, at this moment in time, here are some areas to think about if you think you need to ask for help beyond your squad, right? Are you sleeping at night? Or is your sleeping disrupted to the point where you are unable to function, and function either in your work, or function in your relationships, or your ability just to enjoy, just to have a good time, to debrief, to decompress? So if you are having challenges in those areas, that is the time absolutely to be able to seek out professional help. Now, I will say there are partners in that because for far too long, our mental health system in this country has been under-resourced, and we don't have a strong mental health infrastructure, and we really need to work on that. And I know that many of you on this call in your community take time out in your work to elevate and amplify the fact that we have for decades underfunded and under-resourced our mental health infrastructure. And so there is a contract there, I think, with our larger society to make sure that those who need help can get the help that they need. I know that I am, as a child psychiatrist, I have seen over the last decade an increase in the number, unfortunately, of suicides in young African Americans, particularly young African American boys and teenagers. And so we certainly need to make sure that we amplify that, and that there is a place for folks to go if they feel a need for professional health. Sarah talked about action. And that is the key. So what do you do with all of this? And I think the key thing, and again, that will be individual, and there's individual action, whether or not you seek help, individual action around your family and your workplace. And then some of you may be called and feel a call to action, either personally or professionally, a larger call to action to make changes in where we are today. And those are just a few ways that we can take the feelings that we are feeling, the frustration, the anger, and move that to action. I want to say one thing about stress. Well, before I end with talking a little bit about stress, I want to talk about self-care. Sarah mentioned that, and that is very critical. And here, you not only call on your squad, but you call on your own individual ways that you've been coping: prayer, meditation, yoga, exercise, eating right, all of these issues. It's trite, and we hear it all the time. When we used to travel on airplanes, we were told to put our mask on first before helping others. And so it is very critical that we practice self-care. I want to say one last thing about stress and then resilience. there stress. Not all stress is bad. There is good stress. There's a stress that we had when we had exams in college, and that stress motivated us to study for the exams. Then along the continuum, further along the continuum, there is tolerable stress. And again, individuals will tolerate stress differently. But we are and do encounter situations where the stress is long lasting. It's not just a short term. I have to study for the exam. Maybe the death of a family member or something, where the stressor is more long lasting. But if we have a good, stable, nurturing environment around us, we can get through that stress. But the last thing I think we need to name and identify is toxic stress. And we need to name and identify racism as toxic stress. These are prolonged stressors that are not day to day stressors. And they cause our body to react. Of course, we react to those individual short term stressors. But when we are confronted with these long term, day in and day out stressors and trauma, it can truly take a toll on us, both our physical health. As regards high blood pressure, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, but also our mental health as well. But the news is not all bad. I've been asked a lot about the pending mental health crisis, and am I worried about that? And of course, I'm worried about that, but a crisis is not inevitable. And we can and need to do all that we can to make sure that that crisis is not inevitable. Because I think everyone on this call probably realizes this. We are a resilient group of people, right? And so, of course, resilience requires stable, nurturing environments, but we are resilient. And I think that that's what we should all hold on to as we navigate this time and as we navigate the time post-COVID. As we navigate our path forward through racism, it looks like that there is going to be an opportunity for change, but we will see. I am cautiously optimistic about that. But again, crisis is not inevitable. We are resilient. We should, though, call on help when we need it and participate in events like this to check in, to make sure that we are getting the support that we need. So I just wanted to open with those 30,000 foot comments, and I look forward to questions and answers